Welcome to the Movie Business Podcast, picking up where Movie Business Book left off. I'm Jason Squire, hosting a wide range of industry talent and executives to answer fundamental questions about the business today. Here we go. And we're digging deeper into movie financing with Joseph N. Cohen, a media investment banker and film financier who founded American Entertainment Investors, AEI, which has advised independent production companies, including Alcon, known for The Blind Side, River Road, 12 Years a Slave, and Black Label, SICARIO. Earlier, he held senior positions at Salomon Brothers and Lehman Brothers before becoming president of Largo Entertainment, with hits including Point Break and Malcolm X. With over 20 producing credits, including Words and Pictures and KANDAHAR, he's also the author of Investing in Movies. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Jason.
I'm glad you're here to be a part of the Movie Business Podcast. So, what are the secrets of American Entertainment Investors?
I don't know if we have any real secrets, Jason, but we have some very good and dependable and well-capitalized clients that are quite knowledgeable in the industry, and then we can rely on to deliver what they say they will deliver.
And how do you get in contact with these clients? How does the system work?
Well, many of them actually find me, but I'm often recommended by the leading talent agencies, banks, and law firms.
Wow, well, that's very good. So let's trace, and I bet we'll find a secret by the time we're done together. Let's trace a hypothetical AEI project, one that will become an AEI project from discovery to release. You get a phone call, or how does the beginning of your recognition of a project happen?
Well, remember, I'm on retainer, so I work with a number of leading independent production companies on all their projects, but I also have a number of individual producers who reach out to me on specific projects to help them financially, creatively package the projects. So do you want me to give an example?
Sure, that's great. Thank you.
Well, I won't mention the specific project by name, but I'll talk a bit about some of the parameters. So I'm working right now on a very interesting drama written by one of the leading Anglo-Irish writers of the 20th century. We're going to shoot this film in Ireland, where we'll be obtaining significant benefits, both grants and incentives. So this is a project that is roughly has a gross budget of around 6.5 million euros. But with all the Irish grants and incentives, we can cut the net budget in half.
Wow, just from the incentives alone from Ireland. Wow.
From grants and incentives, yes. The key, though, for these dramas is director and cast, because the IP itself in general is not sufficient to really attract the equity financing required. But this is a project that has a very meaningful Irish director attached, and we hope to have a very meaningful female lead actor who will really attract significant international sales. So with that director and actor attached, I expect to be able to raise the remaining equity requirement of the film.
Wow. So at 6 or 7 million euros, what is that in dollars?
Figure around 1.1. So it's around $7 million. Mm-hmm.
So notice that this is not a studio finance movie. This is truly independent work, which is extremely difficult. My goodness. Yes. I mean, it's really impressive to maintain a level of success in this crazy, difficult side of the business. So let's continue along with this hypothetical. And if you can describe the financing breakdown of this movie? You already said the cost is around, let's say, $6 billion if you want to do dollars, and half of,
7 million US.
very good.
So I will need to raise roughly $3.5 million of equity, or a combination of gap loan and equity, to complete the circle.
So where is that likely to come from? Is this the point where you might try to get a distribution deal, or is the idea to delay that?
No.
Aha.
We won't be able to get a distribution deal up front. We really have to make a good movie. So I will reach out. I have a number of high net worth investors and also independent production companies that would like to come in.
And this answers the question, I guess, of who are all of those people we see at the very beginning with these logos, the very start of a movie that we may not recognize.
Yeah, you may not recognize, but they're around, and more come into the picture every day.
Wow. And so ultimately, the goal in this hypothetical is to raise all the money before you even go for distribution. And that, I imagine, increases your leverage.
Absolutely correct.
Wow. This is getting good. So thank you for the financing breakdown and the approximate percentages of what source. So, Joe, you've been in this marketplace for many years. How has it changed?
Well, we actually have probably more high net worth individuals that have come into the marketplace that are interested in financing films. So, and that's on an international basis. They come in and they leave. So, for example, a few years ago, the Chinese were very active, at least in terms of talk, if not action. But today, because it's very difficult to get capital outside of China, the Chinese are not terribly active, but they've been sort of replaced to a large extent by Middle Eastern sources of capital.
Is that right? And how do you guarantee that the money is going to be there?
Good question. The answer is we have to do our due diligence, and you really have to delve down on the bona fides of your investor. There are a lot of people who like to kick the tires but never deliver on their promises.
Boy, you've been around the block, my goodness. Now, let me ask, is there a collection agency that collects all these dollars that are real now and or euros that are real now and going to be used in the movie's bank account?
Not really. We use a number of key entertainment banks that on a project-by-project basis are involved and will actually serve as a sort of deposit agent for monies coming in. But keep in mind that if the film is bonded, then the completion bond will not be operative until we have clearly met the strike price, i.e. the full budget. Mm-hmm. And we have to demonstrate that the monies are there to fund the full budget.
Good. Now, is there also on the other side of the production? So let's just go through distribution. You have the account. The bank sets up the account for the project, and the project goes forward, and you start principal photography, and the checks go out, and there are people who watch the money very closely and responsibly. And now you're ready now you've got, this is really a summary which defies reality because we're doing it so quickly. Cutting to the cut of the movie that you believe and the director believes and others that it's ready for the marketplace. What happens then?
Yeah, well, the question is, are we going to wait until we have a full, complete film? Or at times we might go out with some form of teaser which shows some key footage. Depends on a joint decision we make with the producer and the sales agent.
So let's say that The sales agent does the work, and the result is a distribution deal or split distribution. You have a preference between U.S. only and then splitting the rest of the world?
Well, remember, we're now in the world of streamers.
Yes.
So we're talking about two typical models. One is your traditional, what we call bifurcated rights model, where we split domestic distribution with international distribution.
Right.
And in that case, we often work with the leading talent agencies to handle domestic distribution, and we may work with one of the leading international sales agents to handle international territorial distribution.
Mm-hmm.
Alternatively, we may attempt to do a deal, an overall deal, either worldwide or maybe certain rights are split with a streamer. Most streamers, of course, do want worldwide rights, particularly Netflix.
And so you really go with the best possible deal for all concerned.
Yeah. Now, remember your deal with a streamer. The good news is they will typically pay a premium over the cost of production. So you have an upfront profit. The bad news is that's all you see.
Because there's really no back end with a streamer.
That's correct. Alternatively, if we do a split rights deal, we will have at least a theoretical back end.
Yes. Well, that's due to a big change that's come upon the industry since the advent of streamers.
No question.
So thank you for being so clear about your experiences and especially the strategy of distribution over the years. Here's another sort of overview question. What are the lessons learned that come to mind?
Well, the first question we always have on a project we're discussing is, for example, if we think that it's going to appeal to streamers, there's something to be said for trying to bring the streamers in early on in the process because they'll want to have input. If we make the movie, we can obviously sell it to a streamer, but they have to buy it as is. It's not like they're going to recut the movie with their input as well. So it's a decision we always have to make going in. We have more leverage with them if we have a finished film, but then, of course, they will have had no input in the process.
And it's a very small business, right? And so the longevity that you've proven also has something to do with who you trust. And now and then there are new people joining the marketplace, as you mentioned earlier, who are real or imagined financiers. And isn't it a small world where you vet each other? If you don't know a person, you can call a reliable colleague and know about that person's reliability.
Well, let me put it this way. People ask me if I work with all international sales agents, and I say I don't blackball anyone, but some of them I discount their estimates by 100%.
100%?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Right. Okay, yeah. That's a high number.
Yeah, so that's the way I can avoid saying I won't do business with someone, but with that level of haircut, I effectively won't do business with them.
Ah, I see. Well, very good.
And why? And you may ask, why don't I want to do business with some sales agents? Because it's a question of lack of trust. Wow. It's not that they'll necessarily steal, but there are ways they can play games, and I don't fully respect the way they treat me in terms of reporting and keeping me apprised.
Boy, and that must also...
This is a business where the deal, how exciting the deal is of secondary importance as to who your partners are in the transaction. If I'm not totally happy with the quality and integrity of my partners, it's a non-starter.
Joe, that's a terrific lesson. It summarizes the nature of the independent industry in a very big way. Wow. And that segues to what would be your advice for filmmakers looking for financing in this arena?
Get a very fine director attached to your project. Directors are even more crucial perhaps than they ever have been, both in terms of attracting cast who only want to typically work with quality directors, but also for attracting the interest of distributors. I can't tell you how a project can be transformed if all of a sudden a major director is attached.
And so that sort of lets the independent entrepreneurial director-writer in a difficult position.
Very difficult. A first-time director is very tough to finance. There are a lot of writers that want to direct, and I just say, I can't make it work with you directing.
That's a good example of how tough the business is in general. Finally, let me ask, what's your prognosis for the business? Where are we heading?
We're in difficult times, no question, but it's not like all of a sudden the world doesn't need new content.
Right.
There are clearly niches which are easier to finance. What comes to mind is a reasonably low budget action or thriller with significant cast. That's why the Liam Neesons of the world and the Jerry Butlers of the world work nonstop. I did a film with Jerry Butler, actually the first Hollywood film shot in Saudi Arabia, wow. Kandahar.
Oh, of course, yes, Kandahar.
And Jerry, I don't have to tell, in fact, I won't share on this podcast what fees the Jerry Butlers and the Jason Stathams of the world command, but you wouldn't believe the number if I shared it with you.
The numbers are very high, no doubt.
Very high, but they're justified by the foreign sales value.
So that's another sort of juggling act, is balancing the budget against the foreign sales expectations.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I have a conversation with a producer who comes in with a budget and I say, you've got to bring it down by 30% because I can't make the numbers work where you are at the moment. I have a very interesting project I'm working on now, which is a Holocaust story, but it's going to be starred in, directed, and produced by a major actor. Even so, and he's come in with a budget to be shot in Eastern Europe at $13.5 million. And I've told him, I can't make it work unless you can bring it down to 10 or below. I have to be the tough guy. Yeah. What can I tell you?
And in all these transactions, no doubt, AEI gets a percentage of money raised or percentage of the back end?
Yes, we get a fee. Typically, we get a fee in the budget and a small piece of the back end.
Very good. It's only fair, Joe.
Yes, I think so.
This is
actually for one of our retainer clients. We have a very interesting deal where we're on retainer, but our piece of the action is only after they recoup. Mm-hmm. But then it's meaningful. So I'm really on the same real basis as they are.
Well, may it always be meaningful. That's my my mantra. Let me thank you so much. This has been fun, Joe. Thank you so much for being on the Movie Business Podcast. Joe Cohen, thank you.
My pleasure, Jason.